hosting the Islands in Between conference, I was immediately excited about this because I felt that it was consistent with what we were trying to do as we celebrate our 50th anniversary as a university, which is young for some institutions, but for us it's a major milestone, and we've been celebrating this all year. But I was also excited because we were at that time in preliminary stages of developing a new center for the university that we wanted to unveil during the 50th, and that is our new Virgin Island Cultural Center for Virgin Islands and Caribbean culture. And we felt that there would not be a better opportunity to launch this than at the time of the hosting of the Islands in Between conference. So I am really glad that all of you are here. I'm looking forward to sitting in on some of the sessions and hearing what you have to offer. I know it will make an important contribution to the university and to the Virgin Islands. And I hope that this is not the last connection that we make, and it's just the beginning of a very fruitful experience. I want to thank Dr. Kahina for her role in not only bringing about this luncheon, but also being the person on the ground who allowed all of this to happen. It's one thing for me to say, yes, we're willing to host, but it's another thing to have someone who is connected to the activity and who also can bring a very culturally influenced perspective from this side. And she has clearly done that, and we are very much delighted. So I invite you here. We invite you here not to listen to me go on and on, but for you to eat. So I'm going to limit my remarks. If you're like me, you may have been up very late last night.
Yeah.
3 o'clock.
So this is a post-election luncheon. Regardless of who your candidate may have been, you should be celebrating.
Amen.
Deeply in the importance of teaching our community about our culture and our history. A few weeks ago in St. Croix, the inaugural Maroon commemorative event did so much to raise the awareness and the struggle encountered by the Maroons community of their collective fight for life and freedom. Learning more of these brave and proud people, we were reminded of our own responsibilities to preserve the Maroon Ridge as a living testament to their determination and courage. For 15 years, this conference has presented us with the opportunity to share elements of our societies, whether it is language, literature, economics, politics, or history, as a means of building our Caribbean community and having informed discussions about the ways that we can work together. And at the same time, advance those elements that have made us who we are today. We are islands in between, heavily influenced by the United States and other countries, and still preserve our own unique culture and traditions. I am pleased to welcome our guests from Ghana and Puerto Rico and other Caribbean islands. Your islands have flavored the cultural melting pot of these Virgin Islands. We are one people, and I thank you for being a part of this event. My thanks to the University of the Virgin Islands, Dr. Hall and his staff, for coordinating this conference. Too many times we bemoan the loss of our culture, yet too little to teach, preserve, or celebrate it. Our culture defines who we are and who we will become. Our challenges of yesterday shape our resiliency of today. Today, as we explore and celebrate our culture, let us remember 3 men and women, all former members of UVI faculty, who carry the standard culture, bear with pride, passion, and enthusiasm for the knowledge they eagerly share. We remember and appreciate Drs. Marva Sproul-Brown, Marvin Williams, and Jean Kenneth Emmanuel for their work to grow our cultural understanding. My thanks to UVI and our friends and partners from the University of Puerto Rico and the University of the West Indies for their efforts in coordinating this event. My thanks as well to all participants who are here today. Your very presence affirms that our ongoing journey to share the diversity and richness of our cultures is worth it. Our cultures are a bridge to understanding. Before I leave, I want to thank the gentleman from Ghana. He gave me a quick crash course about Ghana, and I was not aware of the fact, and Dr. Haftis also. We in the Virgin Islands, St. Croix in particular, we love our island. But after the gentleman explained to me, Ghana is like a replica, or St. Croix is a replica of St. Croix in terms of the building structures. And that's why it's very important to be here today, to share ideas, participate, and network with each other. Thank you.
The power and role of culture in any nation, any society, even any community is just indispensable. So much of the intellectual development of individuals occur because they are rooted in their culture and have an appreciation for it. And it is very important in the world in which we live today that we ensure that our youth, the generations that are coming behind us, have a deep and abiding understanding of the richness of the cultures that they exist within. And I believe we are at a risk of losing some of that, of not having this present generation understand that. So it is important that the work that each of you do in your own universities, in your own professional life, be supported, because you are pouring within the hearts and minds of your students something that is valuable and can enrich their lives. The theme of this conference, or the kind of sub-theme of calling it Islands in Between, also spoke to me, because when I began to understand that the focus was to make sure that we are examining those Caribbean islands that are often overlooked, that don't always get the same attention and resources as some of the larger ones, then that to me said that this is an appropriate endeavor, because it is something that tries to create a voice for those who are often dismissed or marginalized. And that is what educational institutions should be about.
He is a founding member, or the founding father, one of the founding fathers or grandfathers, whatever you want to call, founding uncles of this conference. So I would like him to come and say a few words.
Good morning.
Lieutenant Governor Francis, President, all old friends and colleagues, it gives me great pleasure to be here. When I went to the University of Puerto Rico, I think it was 1995, on a fellowship, I never could imagine that one of the consequences would be these yearly gatherings, and this one is the one that seems to me to be very enthusiastic, bringing together lots of different people, being part of a celebration of 50 years of UVI. So, although he's calling me grandfather, father, and all these things, this is one of the benefits of getting old. So I don't mind. When I went to University of Puerto Rico, I met with Professor Joan Fair and Joan McMurray to understand people. And if they're interested and helpful, then you have to get together. And between the three of us, we organized a conference. I think the first one was in Nevis. And then we went to Karakou. But we kept the enthusiasm going, and you can see what has happened. It has blossomed into these bigger conferences. So it gives me great pleasure to be referred to as grandfather. Thank you very much.
To also come and give us. I first met Dr. Robinson when he was drafted, screaming and kicking in St. Lucia, to stand in for another professor who was to be the keynote speaker. And since then, he's been an uncle to me and to my friends.
Oh, okay, okay.
Founding father. And since I'm Robert's son, father, colleagues all, I have to think back to the day when I said to a student, you know, if you were aware of the Federation and somebody touched somebody else and said, Federation? What is the Federation? Excellent question, because if you don't belong to my vintage, you wouldn't even know, perhaps, that at some point in 1958 there was an attempt to have a Federation of the West Indies. And there was a calypso called Federation by the Mighty Sparrow, which has the following stanza. When they didn't get the capital site, that nearly caused big fight. When Sir Grantley Adams took up his post, that even made things worse. We don't want no Bayesian premier. Trinidad can't be capital for here. So the grumbling went on until we had a big referendum. Well, there's a referendum in Jamaica which led to the breaking up of the Federation.
The University of Puerto Rico, our Chancellor, Dr. Ana Guadalupe, the Dean of the College of Humanities, Luis Ortiz, and our department, we are all honored to be part of this experience. We want to thank the University of the Virgin Islands, its president, Dr. Nick Faraclas, Dr. Kuwabong, Dr. Chasita, for helping in the organization of this conference. We are sure that liaisons are going to be forged during these days, and that we are going to have a wonderful experience. Thank you so much.
Coordinator of the Graduate Studies Program in the English Department, Dr. Carmen, Haydee Rivera, who will give us some remarks also. So Dr. Carmen Rivera.
Women, Dr. Chen and my colleague Mirerza. I welcome you today, especially the Honorable Gregory Francis, Lieutenant Governor of the U.S. Virgin Isles, Dr. David Hall, President of the University of the Virgin Isles, Dr. Chen, our collaborators, sister, wonderful mother, all those names. A particular thanks to Dr. Dannabang and Dr. Nicholas Faraclas, back there, all the way back there, for coordinating, and Dr. Chen, of course, for coordinating the conferences from the different venues. I also warmly welcome our graduate students, our colleagues from other institutions. This is really, as others have mentioned, for our graduate students, development, academic progress, a collaboration with people visiting other islands. For me, it's such an honor as incoming graduate studies coordinator. I've only been in this position for the past year, and this is my first Islands in Between conference, and definitely not the last, right? And it's wonderful to feel the energy. It's wonderful to feel part of a larger community of scholars and colleagues, founding fathers and uncles and cousins and relatives of this larger Caribbean village. Right? But I particularly want to thank Dr. David Hall for hosting this conference this year. Just briefly conversing with him yesterday, I think his vision of educational advancement and communal outreach is really the progressive vision we need to bring about true transformations in our academic institutions. and also to our wonderful two guest speakers, Lois Hassel-Haptis and Marianne Christopher. I'm sure their presentations will definitely enrich our understanding of Caribbean cultures and traditions in ways that we're all looking forward to. And the University of Puerto Rico, as a centennial institution, also congratulates the University of the Virgin Isles on their 50th anniversary. We know that these milestone anniversaries are very important to institutions, particularly because we create liaisons, we create communities through the advancement and the years of service that we provide both to national and international students. Large representation of the Caribbean is here, right, from places like Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, St. Augustine, Guyana, Aruba, and obviously St. Croix, St. Thomas, and Puerto Rico, but also other places like the US, Spain, Canada, France, Denmark, and even China. Thank you very much. Thank you to our students who worked in the registration table, all of these wonderful women and young men from the University of Puerto Rico. Thank you for hours of service, along with carrying 9 credits in research assistantships and teaching assistantships and all of that.
This is very, very, very encouraging in many ways to see all of you here, because actually we're 5 minutes ahead of schedule, which is very nice. I don't think I've ever witnessed one of these conferences, at least, where we're actually ahead of schedule by the time the opening was finished. So that's very good.